Well, hi and welcome to my shop this morning. Thanks so much for coming and joining me. So, it's been almost a week since I've been in here working, even though the last video I published was just yesterday. In fact, I was on a trip up to Ottawa. Ottawa is the capital of Canada, a wonderful city. If you're a tourist and you're coming to Canada and you're coming to this part of Canada, you got to go to Ottawa. Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Quebec City, all those. And Orillia, don't forget Orillia. Anyway, I'm back here now. And the good thing is, yesterday I spent some more time rummaging through my collection of cartridges. And this is after after deciding to replace the cartridge that's in here, which is probably the cause of bad sound. And in trying to find an alternative cartridge, I cannot find an exact replacement for the one that's in here. They don't really exist. At least I couldn't find one. So another alternative is to fit in a different stereo cartridge, one that'll produce the same kind of voltage. In other words, it has to also be a ceramic cartridge. And I was rummaging around the internet and with some contacts I have at some repair shops. And the whole focus came down on one like this. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, hey, I've got one like that, don't I? So I grabbed this one out of my collection and I looked at it. I think, wow, the needle looks absolutely brand new. So what you're going to see is my quick check of the, what you're going to see next is my quick check of the needle, which I did yesterday and found out that in fact this guy's good. He also generates voltage. I already know that, so I know this is good. How it sounds, I don't know yet. So watch the little clip that's coming next, and then we'll get back to what to do about the record player. Well, hi, thanks for joining me here this afternoon in my shop where I've been poking around looking for a cartridge that I can replace on the record player I've been working on. And it turns out I fished around long enough in my stock of stuff and I found, I think, a very suitable replacement. Now it's not a duplication of this. This is the original one. This is a Telefunken one. So these are rare you can't get them. That's how rare these are. Probably if you get one, it's going to have problems anyway. But instead, I have this much better cartridge with a brand new needle on it. But let's take a look at it under the microscope here, and we'll just see. We'll see how new it really is here. Let's take a look. Wow, it looks really, really good to me. Looks brand new. There's absolutely no dirt buildup on it anywhere. It's the only way it can look like this. It's never been played. So, brand new needle. Excellent. Perfect. So, the trick here for me now, this cartridge snaps in and it has these contact points, pressure contact points that snap in. Well, there's no such thing on this. This one comes with a bracket. You mount the bracket up in the tone arm, of course, and then you can just snap this in. But that won't make any connections. Connections are looking for this. So I'm going to have to take the holder out that holds this and detach the wires. Probably just cut them away. And then put them on. I've got to find some little pieces that go on here. It's going to be tricky anyway. Some little fine wire work that's really terribly annoying. Of course, I'll have to figure out a way to get this bracket up in there too. It's not necessarily easy. None of this is necessarily easy, but it's all possible. So, good show. We're moving forward. Okay, so that's pretty exciting that I've got a good one here with essentially a brand new needle on it. Now the owner has told me he has no intention to play 78 records, so this is a micro groove needle. It's not going to play. Well, I guess you could probably play a 78 with this, but it might not sound as good as you want, and the needle may damage the record. I think. Not sure. So anyway, 78 not an issue. What is an issue now is getting this to sit here at the right height, the right distance, making these connections, which is really going to be a challenge to make those connections now. I'm anticipating cutting out the holder that's in here, cutting the wires, attaching the wires to these small say clips, and then pushing them on the back here. Yeah, that's going to work. Yeah, that's my best approach. Fitting this up inside may involve first fitting up this bracket. If I can get this bracket up in there, then this becomes a pop-in, pop-out deal. And that's probably a much better move than trying to actually stick this in there. And how would I stick it in there without this clip? This is going to have to be glued in place, or in the worst case, double-sided sticky tape. That's a terrible, terrible solution, but it is something that will work. This just clips on like that, snaps in. So how does this get held in? This is held in with a couple of screws here, or screw holes. And it looks like in a properly fitted tone arm, there's probably pins that come down through these edges. And then maybe you have your choice, a little bit forward or back. I don't know why there's two holes. Is this going to fit in there? Man, I give it a 10% chance of me being able to screw this up in there. So our attention's got to turn to this guy now and see what it is we really got in front of us. How possible it really is to even do this. I'm sure, you know, in the world where you can jury rig and botch everything together, yes, anything can be done. And so I'm hoping I'm in that world here today. Let's switch to the other camera. Ooh, focus. Ooh, 1 second here. Focus, focus. Terrible focus. Let's start like that. Okay, now we're going to pick up this guy here. Well, I can see one screw at the top there. And I'll bet you there's a screw down under there. I think that's a screw there. It has to be, I guess. Yeah. Well, let's take that out, and then you can see the wire there. Oh boy, you know, these wires are really, really tough to work with. This is not your easy. Like, if you like a challenge, this is it. What's going on in there? It looks like this has been glued or soldered or something. Son of a gun. Yeah, I think there's glue all over this. Yeah, you know what? The upper screw's got some kind of glue on it too. Jeepers creepers. I didn't even get so far as to turn the screw before getting into trouble. Well, with any luck, I can just break through that stuff. Let's see what happens. It's a small screwdriver here. I'm not sure I got the power in it. There's nothing to it. Nothing to it. So, you know, I mean, the objective is for the glue to just keep the screw from turning, from vibration and stuff like that. So, wouldn't take much glue. You know, I'm doing this right on top, right above my my record here. Maybe I should get the record out of here because Which record is this? Foot in Cold Water. That's a great record. It's a great record. A lot of those songs you still hear on the radio up here. So in Canada, we have something in our communications, Radio Communications Act or law that says a Canadian radio station must play Canadian music so many minutes every hour. And I think it's like 25 minutes out of the hour. Oh, this screw is loose. This doesn't look like a screw. You know what? You know what this is? This is not a screw. This is a well, it's a screw, but it's a I don't know what to call it. It doesn't have a head on it. It's a I've forgotten what the word is. So I think this is coming out already. I don't think that screw is needed. I think it's just going to come right out. Yeah. Look at that. Ooh. Well, it couldn't be better. So this screw here that I started turning, this is an adjustment screw. So it tip this. There's a spring-loaded piece here. Oh, that's for this. That's for this. So I don't quite see how this is supposed to be rigid enough to even work or anything. One screw going in at the top and then this adjustment pushing. Well, I guess you tighten the screw down and then this will be held. And then this pushes to adjust the angle of this a little bit. I don't think there was any saving grace in that because the problem is at the front end. Wow, should I put this back in? Should I put this back in, like cut the wire off, do what I'm going to do with the wire, but put this back in as a better surface to work from, or else I'm going right up into there. I'll leave this hanging for now. Okay, new cartridge. Does it even fit? Wow. It's not with a lot of room there. And of course, I can't have it fit way up there. It's got to be fitting kind of down in this area. It's a lot. That's a lot of space in there to fill up. Yeah. The thing about leaving this in there is it screws in. So that would be there. And then we would kind of try to fit this here, which is actually better. Kind of better in a way. It's not going to clip in there. I see the clip piece is interfering with the wire attachment now, so that's not so good. If this piece wasn't there, jeepers, if that piece, if this clip piece wasn't here, oh, like it's right in the way. It's practically holding it in. I almost succeeded. Just pop it in. No way. Not possible. Wow, that's really close to just grabbing it. I mean, how much grab do you need? You need a little more than that. Hey, can I reshape this holder? How could I do that? Bend this top piece until it hits the clip here and catches just like it's really supposed to. Assuming it's caught now, pull this back and pop this down. All these are in the way. I'd have to bend these out of the way, and even then they would still be in the way. Or I put some kind of extension on here, like glue on a little extension. How would that work? That would I'm supposed to try to grab this little tab. My nail is grabbing right there. That's possible, you know, with a lot of very accurate work. I don't think I'm going to try it though. So another alternative is put this clip back in, load this with, like after doing the wiring, load this with epoxy and just set this in it like this. Just set it in there. I still have to get rid of this clip thing. This clip thing's in the way. Okay, let's forget that. Let's say, okay, we're going to go without that. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to shim this all the way out to the surface here. So I need a block, like a block of wood or something sitting in here. A nice light block of wood would actually be a fairly good choice, I think. And I can shape it. I can shape it all kinds of ways, including incorrectly. And then I have a lot of freedom in how to position this. A block of wood. A block of wood is what I'm going to have to try. I think a block of wood. What kind of blocks of wood have I got? I got all kinds of little stuff. Wood or block of plastic? Is there such a thing as a block of plastic? And now I had something else to show you here, which I will do now. And then I'm off to try to find the necessary parts. As I find what I was going to show you. Here's bits of it. A little more of it. Well, somewhere along the line it's disappeared here in my... There it is. There it is. I see it. Okay, I'm going to show you the fuse. If you remember, much earlier on, I took the fuse out of the receiver, just screw it out, fuse like this, and it's in the holder, and I couldn't get it out of the holder. Oh, I got it out of the holder all right. This was a 10 amp slow blow fuse, completely wrong for something like this. A 10 amp fuse in a machine like this, you might as well not even put a fuse. That's what I think. Well, I guess 10 amps is better than nothing. So I spent a long time digging the cap, the end cap on the fuse out of the holder. Like a long time. Not on video. And so now the unit has a 3 amp fuse. It's calling for a 2 amp fuse, but I put a 3 amp ordinary fuse, or not a slow blow. Not a timed fuse. Wait a minute, all fuses are timed. All fuses have timing issues with them. Okay, I'll go off and see what I can rig up here. So I went out of my garage. Here's the first thing I thought I should really check out and see if there's something in here that might just fit in there and do the trick. Yes, it's a pile of Lego. I somewhat habitually buy Lego at yard sales when I see it, and the price is ridiculously low, and it often is. And people sell thousands of dollars of Lego for 10 and 20 bucks, so I have a lot of Lego. Fortunately, I have a granddaughter, so someday this will go there. So I'm thinking maybe some of these pieces would actually be quite ideal in there, just maybe. I don't know. Let's check them out, see what happens here. If there's anything that might just happen to be ideal. No, it's way too big. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It pretty much fits right in there. Wow. Orange may not be the best color though. Okay, it's a touch higher this way. That's amazing because it actually, the way this is constructed, there's a piece landing right along this edge here and catching it right along this edge. It's just like it's made to order. I don't need that big a piece. Now where's the cartridge? Here it is. I think the cartridge would be sticking out a little too much here with this one. Let's see. Well, you know what? That doesn't look crazy. That's not looking crazy. Huh. I could use a like a square. So I would glue that in there, and then I'd just literally glue this cartridge right on top of it. Gee, it'd be cool if I could snap it in there somehow, but I can't see how. Okay, it's a little awkward to check out here. There we are. So it would look like that. You know what, I'm not sure if that's going to hit the record right. Okay, I need an elastic band here. Do I have an elastic band handy? Apologize if I just yelled in the microphone. Here. Come on, quickly. Any elastic band. Any. Usually I have that kind of stuff here. Okay, we can't do it with an elastic band. We'll try to wrap it on with this here. Damn it. I should have taken the needle out of the cartridge while I'm fiddling with it. Oh, hey, maybe this can be permanent like this. There we are. Now there's a great job done. Okay, so I am not going to nip this off now. I'm going to nip it off. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't nip it because the wires are really hard to get the insulation off of on something like this. And if I can cut the wire with insulation showing, or with wire showing. No, that's not happening. It's only 3 wires and there's 4 terminals on the back of that cartridge, so that's another little issue I've got to pay attention to. So the best I can do is just nip these guys off. Maximize their length. There we go with that. We're kind of committed now, aren't we? Okay, so one interesting thing is the weight of the tone arm is way far from where it was. When I started, this was 12 grams pushing down, and that's why that other cartridge got wrecked, I'm sure. Now it's probably 1, which is way too light. Doesn't look too bad, eh? I wonder if there's a slightly shallower piece of Lego as opposed to the standard types. By the way, this is probably 5% of the Lego I've got. Probably. Yeah. You have bucket loads of it. I rejected buying about 30 pounds of Lego for 25 bucks once. It's probably a bad move. Well, maybe I'm going to let this sit for a while in my head before I go ahead, because obviously once you glue this in, there's no coming out. Plus, I still don't know what this sounds like. So you know what? Doing this isn't as ridiculous as I might have thought. If I can play a record with this hooked up like this, that's fine. I'd have to make the connection. Doesn't matter what cartridge I use, almost all of them are going to use those little tiny clips. What happened to those little tiny clips? Oh no, what did I do with them? Well, they're around here somewhere. I had some more anyway. So I'm going to put the little tiny clips onto the wires next. They have to go on anyway. We'll then hook it up to the cartridge and try to play the cartridge in a temporary manner like this, because I'm not screwing it in, right? I'm gluing it. Gluing it will screw it. Think about it. Okay. Go away and ponder the whole situation here for a bit. Okay, so I want just a little bit of, I just took a little break there. A little bit of thought would say, if this cartridge is sticking down too far, then when the tone arm comes down and contacts the record, it's not down as far as it might be. And what's happening is this angle is changing. So if I have the cartridge down too far, the tone arm, just to really emphasize what I'm getting at, won't come down very far. It'll come down this far. It's a huge cartridge, pretend. And that'll result in the cartridge being on the wrong angle, with the potential for the back of it to skid. Okay. Since we're dealing with fractions of a millimeter sometimes with these things. These little angles matter. So, but it's pretty clear. I just looked at it. Let's take a look at it with the camera here. Looks really good to me, just the way it is. In fact, it looks really good. Let's see. See, the orange bridge that holds the needle is quite forward on this particular cartridge, and so see the needle, is it fully, well, I don't know, is it fully in that orange thing or not? It's probably where it's going to go. The cartridge is very light right now, so I'm going to put a little weight on it with my finger back here, and just see what happens here. Okay, here comes the weight. Ugh. Well, the cartridge is in good shape because you can see the orange piece compressing. So that gives me an idea how much weight I can put on this. Right now, wow. You know what? We're going to measure the weight of it just the way it is. These kinds of tone arms with the spring, as you raise them up, the spring, tension changes, and so the weight or tracking force changes. So if I measure it up here, I might get one thing. Measure it down here, I get something quite different. So I'm feeling this with my my hand over there, and I can feel weight up here, but by the time I get it down to the record, it's just floating, like just floats off my finger. There's no question as I raise it up so maybe I can measure it kind of over in this area here, which you're supposed to try to measure this at the same height as a record. Okay, enough of that. So far so good. Let's try measuring that. Now I'm going to regret having powered up that spring earlier, to compensate for the very, very heavy cartridge and holder. This thing here, this weighs probably, well, I got a scale, let's find out. Because it's not in there anymore. There's a lot to this. This is a busy little gizmo here. That's 7 grams. So the spring was loaded to achieve, I believe, 9 grams with the old cartridge on it. The old cartridge, I've gone and stuck it somewhere, so I can't grab it, but we'll pretend this is the weight of the cartridge. So we'll put the cartridge on. Now we're looking at 9. I adjusted the, almost 10. I adjusted the 9.5 is what this says. I adjusted the spring, measured the tracking force at 9. I've now removed 9 from it, and I put in whatever I put in. A piece of Lego, 1.2, and that cartridge, which is going to be double this anyway. So I put in 4, so I'm somewhere in the area of 1 or 2 grams tracking. At the very, very best cartridges track at that kind of weight, if any, at 1 gram. Now it's always a trick to try to measure this at the right height on a counter. The space in here doesn't really allow it. I don't think I can do it like this. I think it has to be flat. So this is about the best I'm going to get here. Break that off. I suppose it doesn't have to be right on the needle. Yeah, this is about the best I can do right here. Okay, let me make sure it was zeroing. Yep, that's 0. 1.8, about 2 grams tracking, and it's only going to be less as I go down. So I either got to add mass up here or release the spring a little bit. Let's think about this. you know, there's two philosophies on the tone arm deal. One is the massive head, and the other one is the not so massive head. Now, the not so massive head is the one that wins all the time in the long run. But the thing is, if you have a lot of mass here, then as the needle goes back and forth, it can't move the whole tone arm back and forth because of the mass. More mass, less absorbance into the tone arm. Is that critical for something like this? Probably not. There's probably enough mass here right from the start. Would it cause another problem? Can't imagine it. You could put lots of mass in one of these things, I think, as long as you can get it balanced out or sprung out or whatever. Should I just, what if I just use a bigger piece of Lego to get a little more? It's a very little more. So where am I at? I'm at 2. I really want to get this up to, well, you know what? I don't know what the tracking force is supposed to be on this cartridge. Okay, research time. Let me find that out for sure. Oh, okay, so I did a little study, and you know, it could be anywhere between 2 and 3 grams all the way up to 8 and 9 grams. So here's the way I'm going to approach this. Right now it's light. So if anything, it needs more weight. More weight can be achieved with the spring or by adding weight in the head, which is actually a very controlled way of doing it. Fiddling with the spring is not controlled, right? You take a guess every time you bend it. You don't know where you're going to end up for sure. So what I'm thinking is I should go ahead and complete the temporary installation. Leave this on here, even though it's a little extra weight, and see how this behaves with the little tracking force that's on it now. I'll also find out if it works. There's another issue about it working. It may work fine, but in this stereo it doesn't produce enough voltage to drive the stereo. So there's a chance that this fine cartridge just won't work in here. There's that chance. So that's what we're trying to find out before we go any further. Is this thing really going to work? So on the tracking side, if I put it on the record and it sounds like crap, and I think, well, it's because it's only got 1.5 grams on it, I can just temporarily add weight by sticking stuff on top of the tone arm, and so I can achieve the experimental environment I need to find out what the required, what the ideal tracking force really is. And my guess, it's around 4 grams. That's my guess about this. I suppose if I look long enough, I'd find this exact cartridge and a statement about this exact cartridge, but I didn't find that. Okay, so that being the case, then I just go back to what it was I was going to do, and that's attach those little clips onto the wires and get ready for what I need to do, and take into account the fact that the cartridge has 4 pins and I've only got 3 wires. There's going to be one lonely pin there. I'm going to have to figure out what to do about that too, which I think is pretty easy. Okay, on to these wires here. So I kind of had to accept that I'm going to be in the world of teeny tiny fiddly work, right at the limits of my vision here while I do this. The first thing I'm going to do is prepare for the second ground connection, the second neutral or return, I guess you could call it. So I'm preparing a little piece of wire. It's going to, because we have only 3 wires and 4 pins, so the ground wire is going to have 2 pins on it when I'm done. That's my theory. Limit of my vision here. Probably some other limits being reached too, but I won't talk about those. Whoops, that was a mess. So I picked a flexible piece of wire here, of course. I suppose it doesn't really have to be flexible, come to think of it. But I've come to think about it too late in the game here. This is what we're doing. We're doing this. Hang on there. see it hanging there. Okay, let's get my soldering iron to turn on here. There it goes. Okay. Find my solder. Might bump the camera here with the more light. That probably got it. Barely. I mean, it doesn't take much here to work. Put the other clip and the copper wire here onto the other end. That's the idea. Big fat finger is not quite the right tool here. Big fat pliers, not much better. You can hear me get my breathing done before I attempt these things. Okay. That's all splayed out. Right. Yeah, like I'm going to twist it. Keep hanging on there. Come on, come on, come on. Don't splay out everywhere. Just get in there a little bit. I think I did it. I think I did it and I can't even see it. Can't see anything anymore. So I'm not looking through that camera you're looking at, so I'm not seeing what you're seeing. Maybe you're seeing great stuff here. Actually, I don't have to go through the hole. I just got to make the black wire hook up to the cartridge ground wire here. It's times like this where I pay very little attention to what I'm saying, so if I say something stupid, well, if you've watched lots of my videos, you're used to that. Stupid statements. Something's caught on something here. You know what? I just can't see. I need to get my little magnifier out. Sometimes looking through the camera just isn't going to do it. You know, those wires are tangled up right in the holder, right in the spot. I just need to squeeze this a wee bit and solder it. If I get solder on that, it's going to work. If I get solder on it without knocking it all apart. There's something wrong with the lighting in here today because I'm having a heck of a time seeing stuff. And a big nice blob of solder in there. Looks good. Looks good. Is it any good? That's two done. Oop, that's two done. Now I gotta get the yellow and the red. There's little tiny tidbits of wire sticking out there. So trying to trim these back in a situation where you don't have much spare wire, it might be better to not attempt anything with these and just try to use the little tiny tidbits that are there. How in heaven's name do you strip these little tiny wires? So I think I'm going to try to attach to what's here. And get a grip on it. Pretty tiny stuff. Whoever shows up goes first. Looks like the yellow one's gonna win. Won't be much of a connection, that's for sure. I was going to say, but it's not like it's an airplane bouncing down a runway. Everything needs to be, really, really strong. But, in fact, this is like an airplane bouncing down a runway because it has the automatic mechanism in it. Okay, so they're in contact now. It's a question of whether I can make this good enough here. I don't know. Did it even get the wire? Oh yeah. Okay. We'll deem that on. Deemed. One of my earlier jobs, which I've mentioned a number of times, I was a corrosion technician. What a great job for someone like me. Wow. In a power distribution company. Among a couple other responsibilities, I was responsible for the corrosion control of underground power cables. So I got that job, and I've been doing it for a couple of months, and I was in talking to the department manager. My department had about 100 people in it, so I'm seeing the big guy. And we're chatting a bit, and I said to him, You know, I have received some training. I'd taken some training in corrosion, but nothing too serious. And I was worried about my legitimacy as a corrosion technician. He looked at me for a minute, and he stood up and he grabbed his ruler and he reached across his desk and tapped me on both shoulders and said, "I deem you a corrosion technician. There. You feel better now?" Oddly enough, I did. I did feel better. Now I feel terrible because of what did I do with the other clip? Where'd it go? There. Oh, there it is right there. Right. So, you know, those kinds of experiences, I'm sure you've had similar things, maybe with mentors or your parents or your friends or whoever, where they just say something or do something, and in just a few words or actions, your whole perspective on things change, and that's what happened there. I told my best story of this sort is with my father. Not a very instructional man when it came to raising his son. But one big thing I got from him was while I was, I'm sure I told you this, I'll tell you again. I was out cutting the lawn for like maybe the third time in my life. I was maybe 13, 14 years old. And it's electric lawnmower, you know, with the extension cord and, you know, all the problems that occur with trying to manage the cord and everything. My father came out and watched me for a few minutes. And he walked up to me, he looked me in the eye, and he said, angry, with anger in his voice, "You're not losing your head." I'm sorry, let me say that again. Come on, quite right. "You're not using your head." And he walked away. And at that point, I thought, he's right. I've got a head here. I'm not using it. In fact, I'm not just not using it on cutting a lawn. I'm not really using it. I'm not using my head. And I don't know if he came to regret that, because I became a very independent thinker after that. I guess I grew up at that moment. I guess that's what that was. Grew up somewhat. Still growing up. Aren't we? Aren't we all still growing up? Aren't we nothing more than big children dealing with adult issues? Isn't that really what's going on? Well, these all went on. That's what's going on there. Look at that. I just have to get this crazy thing out of the back of a cartridge now. Here, let me take. I put this paper here to try to prevent the clip from biting right through the wires, because they're so small. These clips can be really strong. So there we have it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, oh, oh. Throwing stuff around. So happy and excited. Now, we're still in the mode of attempting to find out if this is going to work. We're attempting to find out. Is this going to work? Yeah, what's that screwdriver down there? The cartridge and whatnot fell out, and when the cartridge and whatnot fell out, the cartridge and the Lego, the tone arm went flying up. Okay, now I'm going to switch cameras here because it's too tricky to try to follow it with this close one. There. Hey, hey, I'm over here. Over here. Try to put it in the way it's going to be. I got the needle here. That's actually a tricky needle to get in and out of there. That's not one you want to be popping in and out of there a lot. Oh, I gotta put the wires on the back. See, once I get the wires on the back, this thing's in the way. What? Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa! Which wire goes where? Okay, so this thing says right and left, right on it. So it's gonna be, these are going to be the left, and these are going to be the right. What's going on with these? Okay, so that's easy. They generally put, not necessarily true, but they generally put the ground stuff kind of out where it's exposed. So these corner ones are probably the one where the ground clip should go, and then these are probably the signal clips. But the fact is, if I hook it up backwards, backwards, what's that mean? It's hard to make a mistake with this. Let's put it that way. Wait a minute, we're making a mistake right now. I want to be on this side of this. You know, I'm going to take this off. We will attempt to put this on again after. If you're watching my shop videos and you're going, it looks like this guy's never done this before. Yeah, a lot of times that's true. Radio repair, it seems to extend to all kinds of weird stuff. Okay, they're not coming off. I'm not trying to be gentle with these. If they're not soldered well enough that they can just fall right off, I want them to fall off now. But they aren't. Good enough, because I'm going to have to take it off later. So this is just an experiment, just an experiment. One on. Maybe I just need new glasses. Maybe that's what's happened here. Maybe I need to clean my glasses. Maybe that's the deal. There. I got him. Okay. Now, quickly, but not too rapidly, let's put this in here. Up roughly where it's going to be. That's more than roughly. That's pretty much. You know, I'm going to wrap this thing around it. It's going to interfere on the record. I hope not. I just hope not. Okay, we're wrapping. This thing fell somehow into a funny place. How did that happen? Get up there, Mr. Lego. There. Okay, I think everything is the way it's going to be. Tighten her down, man. Tighten her down. Oh boy, that's... I don't know if this test is going to prove anything. It's going to prove that the test is invalid. Let me put a little more power on this here. Give it the power. Ugh. This didn't work out very well. The wires worked out good. Can we test that? You know what? We might be able to. Let's take a little look with the other camera here for a minute. See if we got things kind of angled right. Well, that looks pretty good. Let's put a record on here and look at it sitting on a record. Yeah, I didn't have to have the record spinning the other day to check it. Hey, it comes with a handle now. Twist tie handle. What do we see in there? Oh, lovely. If anything, the cartridge is angled. I don't know how to say it. The front end is angled down too much. So it makes the needle not perfectly perpendicular to the groove. It's kind of tip the back into the groove a little bit. I don't think it's going to matter. See, there's my handle. Right here. Look at that. I have to put an extra charge for this. Extra charge on the bill. Okay, now to hear this, I'm not going to hook it up to the stereo. I'm going to hook it up to my sound system here in the shop. That's going to take a minute. So I got to get the power and everything. So, okay, hang on. Okay, so I'm not too sure just whether my test setup is actually appropriate or not. So that's kind of a bit of a question mark. But here's what I've got going. So this is the wire from the record player. There's a 3-pin output plug, if you like, that's supposed to go into the receiver. I have clip leads coming over to these two phono cords. Those phono cords lead into this satellite mixer that I have for mixing, for doing exactly what I'm doing here. The output of this mixer goes into my sound board here for videos, and these two controls listen to this thing, and these two controls listen to the cartridge. Lots of volume control in this. So when I'm changing volumes, you know I'm fiddling with these things over here. So I'm going to give this a 90% chance of working beautifully. That's what's in my head on this. I think I've really got there. We'll see momentarily. Now again, I got copyright problems with my videos I'm trying to eliminate, so as you're listening to them, you'll hear music get chop, chop, chop as I chop out little tiny pieces of it, or I knock the volume up and down, or I try to talk over it, or whatever it is I'm trying to do. So YouTube can't figure out I'm playing this record here. As if they really care about a couple of seconds of music. They really shouldn't. But that's all it takes. Around 10, I'm not sure, 10, 12 seconds. So we're set to 33. I think we're ready to go. Got the power on. Put the power on, Jim. Power's on. Okay. Come on, record player. Do your thing. Volume's up here a little bit. I'm guessing. Oh yeah. Thumbs up on that. Okay, so I'm going to take it in where we don't have distorted guitar, but instead we have voices and stuff like that. And this is with the super lightweight. So this last song is a beauty, I think. What do we got?
Feels so good by me.
Well, that sounded great. So let's just take it a little further in there. I'll try not to trigger the velocity sensor here. There we go. Make me do anything you want. Okay, another one. So there's definitely a little bit of distortion in there. I'm guessing it's because this is too light. So I'm going to heavy this up a little bit because it can only be too light. It can't be too heavy. What am I going to do it with? Do I have... What have I got here? We'll try it with this battery. That's a tiny amount. I don't know. How much is it? How much are you putting on there, Jim? Let's find out. So this is good. I am encouraged very much. I've pretty much heard enough already to know that this is going to work. I don't know, 1 gram? What would that be? 2 grams. Okay, so we're going to go up 2 grams. That's like doubling the weight on here now. I don't know if this is going to stay on here. Yeah. How are you going to know it sounds any different? Beautiful. That's enough. I've heard enough. I've heard enough to know this is going to work great. Okay, that's excellent. The plan has worked out so far. I'm feeling a lot better now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue in the Lego piece. I'm going to glue in the cartridge just as it is. And great. That's good. And then the whole thing goes back in the cabinet and we find out what's wrong with it then. Great.